and she posted a picture of the baby, the diagnosis the baby had.
There's something special about your love. I think it's one of a kind.
Welcome to another episode of On Our BS. If this is your first time here, we're going to be changing up a little. I think you know us for our kind of like our love and relationship topics.
This is still going to be love and relationship, but an important part of that is work-life balance. I think this is a topic that is going to be able to hit a nerve with a lot of people.
Today we're going to be mostly talking about nursing. We're talking in general about healthcare, but in particular nursing and the realm of nursing.
So I don't think you have to be a nurse. I don't even think you have to be in healthcare to be able to relate to what we're talking about, because some of what we're going to talk about is just going to be work-life balance stuff. Some of the minutia things will go into, healthcare and those things, but it will be relatable, I promise. Stick with us. As
well as if you are considering nursing and you're
definitely.
I hear a lot of people complaining about this and that.
We are both nurses.
Because we are both nurses, and we're gonna just kind of give you a quick background in nursing, who we are, because you're probably gonna be like, I don't know you. You've been doing nursing for a year. Our backgrounds in nursing is different as well.
Yeah.
Dan, I will clap for him. I will praise him for that. He's done literally everything from tertiary to primary care in nursing. So what is your
one of the major differences between me and Lisa, as it currently stands right now, is that I'm an LPN and Lisa's an RN. In my time as a nurse, I have worked in a nursing home, which was long-term care.
Long-term rehab.
Yeah, long-term rehab. I have worked in a clinical setting, which is considered outpatient in a specialty.
What specialty was that?
That was ENT, or ears, nose, and throat. I left that to go into corrections, and I have now worked in a hospital system for the first time in a ER setting. And I've been in 2 different ERs at this point. And I'm being very technical, but I've been in 2 different ER settings, one in a standalone setting and one connected to a hospital. And so that's what I have done. I'm going to let Lisa touch on what she has done in her illustrious career so far.
That's just, I like that. Okay, I've been a nurse for 14 and a half, almost 15 years. Started nursing after my first degree at university. And then I went to Miami-Dade. Big up to Miami-Dade, big up to Sheridan Tech. First nursing department was a cardiothoracic surgery at a hospital in South Florida. And I did that for 2 years. Then after that, I went to a tele floor for like 4 months, 5 months. And then I ended up going to a neurology floor, neurology stroke unit floor. And I did that for almost 10 years. And then now I am working per diem in a surgical PCU setting. So I've done everything from ICU to IMCU back then is what they used to call it, to now a PCU, a surgical PCU.
We're now in the same hospital setting, and same hospital system, but in the same actual hospital as well. And the reason why I laugh at that is we worked in the same hospital system before, but I was in corrections, so there was like, I could relate to an extent before, but now it's like we can have arguments about different departments and like handing off to each other. We never worked the same nights, but like, some people that I will know will give in a report to my wife and vice versa and stuff like that. Which people are slowly starting to find out, like, oh, that's your husband, or that's your wife.
I want to just kind of pin that to where we're kind of going to go is, remember that, is that because we work in not only the same hospital system, but the same hospital, when you are managing the topic we're going to discuss later, this can be difficult as well, working in the same hospital.
Oh yeah, the work-life balance is the whole thing. So, with just even having the same profession, because
How many people their spouses are nurses?
Well, we know one other couple that they're both
like
RNs.
Like daddy, when you think of like my father and his like batchmates.
What are you talking about now?
No, I'm just saying, I was going to say like some of them have wives that were nurses.
In and around healthcare, But like in our generation, I know one other couple.
I point that out because it's not that it's like, oh my God, it's so rare. We are special. We're snowflakes.
It is a bit rare because
it is rare.
Nurses don't like marrying nurses. Nurses don't like nurses. Disclaimer. So this is the thing, right? Because we know this is in social media, please take with a grain of salt any stories that we tell you. They are not about our current employment.
If it is happening during our current employment,
they'll be disguised enough.
We're not using these names. We're not using
no
the
patient
ages.
names.
we understand
no hospital
HIPAA.
systems names, you know, because I don't need to be in my nurse manager's office about anything. But people need to realize that in every job that you're going to have where there's any level of stress, there's going to be some point where you're going to need to vent about something.
Let's go into the first topic on that. First, what are we drinking? I'm a little like, yo, should we be drinking? Because like this is like
neither one of us
topics
tomorrow.
But the thing is, in topics like this, you might need a drink. If you're listening to this video podcast on your way to work, please don't be drinking with us. But if you are home and you are trying to listen and vent to our voices, pop open a bottle.
Yeah.
Pop open a bottle of beer or wine. But this is what we're drinking tonight.
So this is not sponsored. This is some Oliver. This one is a really good one. This is the Cherry Moscato. They have a mixed blend one and they have a blueberry. And some people, I saw that at Target. But this one is our favorite so far.
This one is very light,
has
kind
a
of like a
little bit of
lychee,
sweet
kind
to
of like flowery taste to it.
We're gonna crack this open and get into this topic.
Cheers to
Cheers to you.
Cheers to you.
Buckle up.
Okay, so first topic is social media and nursing. So,
okay,
my opinion is, because I am one of those like kind of old nurses, why I say don't be doing no TikToks and all that stuff. And because I come from a work environment that was very toxic and they wanted to blame you for every and anything, even down to the seconds of like, oh, well, you posted this and we looked at the metadata that you took this and a patient fell and this happened and we timed it and you were in the break room doing a TikTok dance or posting a TikTok dance, even though you're like, oh, I filmed that like right when I came in before I started my shift, or this was my break. They don't care. Because I know and understand that, and not every hospital is like that. There are some floors that do TikToks together, hospitals that will film videos and stuff like that together and put them on the social media. But for me, and how I've seen the horrors of how that can ruin careers and how people can misconstrue things and not understand.
Nurse court, which is you end up in front of the board trying to explain, trying to defend your license.
The ethics, I was even talking about the ethics departments in hospitals. You're even going further, having to defend your license. Like, that's scary. So that's why I would tell my nursing babies, don't do TikToks at work. But I could understand.
But not just TikTok, it's just social media on the whole.
Yeah.
I will say this.
Yeah, let me correct that.
I will say this, right? I do think that healthcare does a little bit too much of this. We are living in the benefit of living in a country where we have the freedom of speech, and obviously speech is going to be limited even within that freedom. But, you know, these are, for the most part, private institutions, and they indoctrinate you with trying to say like, yes, this is what's going to happen, or this is bad, or you're going to, even when you're not putting people at risk for HIPAA or anything like that, just don't do it. Just don't do it. You know, be very careful about it. I remember even there was one doctor that was doing his skits at home, and they were still giving him a hard time at home about it, and it wasn't even in the hospital setting.
So if you follow Nurse John, you'll probably hear me talk about Nurse John again further in the pod, because he said something very poignant. I watched an interview about him. I don't even know if I even discussed it with Dan. But Nurse John is that people were like, oh, well, you did this skit in like the break room, and he's like, no, this is my bathroom.
Yeah.
So calm down. But even that, guys, what was the question that they asked you at your last job interview that you were like, wow, that's a show of the times that we're in?
I don't remember the actual word for word, but I know they asked me how I felt about it, which was a very sneaky thing of doing it. I don't remember.
Oh, they asked, do you have a social media presence where you discuss, how do they say it? Like, you discuss healthcare or your nursing or something like that. The fact that it has become a part of a interview question shows you that hospitals are like, we have to be like concerned if you're like, oh yeah, I have a whole like social media presence, and it's like, why is that important to you? Like, if we're talking the truth, obviously we understand HIPAA. Like, we are professionals. Like, there's only really been one time I've seen somebody that did something on social media that I was like, girl, where did you come from? Do you remember the woman at down south where she was working on a peds floor, and she posted a picture of the baby, the diagnosis the baby had?
Yeah, vaguely. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
This is the thing, right?
And there's full-on video.
There's two rules, right, that I would say that you have to remember. One is that the whole social media thing and the truth behind it and all that, nobody wants, when they have their $1 million company, no matter how real and honest you are being, they don't want that kind of backlash, right? They don't even want it from patients. There's situations where they're trying to take phones away from patients.
Yeah.
Right? To what extent of power they have to be able to limit recording,
which
from a patient's perspective,
which is important though, because that could be a whole nother topic too. But I understand being on the flip side of that and being a nurse and having family want to record us and being like,
oh yeah, no, don't record me.
Don't record me. But then also have that same respect for your patients. And I've seen people like post things where they're like feeding a patient, and I'm like, how is that allowed? Like, you must be lucky that your hospital system is not checking like social medias, because
or they're signing off on it that they're actually cool with that.
Like, like if you are one of those like one-on-one healthcare workers that like work in a home with your patient, and you guys have a relationship that you can, and
they're cool until they're not cool. Because the other rule that I would always say, and this is a poignant rule, is this, right? Like, you can do HIPAA and say all of this, but they don't really care about HIPAA. What they care about is they want to watch their own behind, and they want anything that's going to reflect negatively on them, whether it's true or exaggerated, they don't want, and they're going to treat as aggravation. You could literally, half of your hospital system could be on the floor, and you're outside filming it from a hurricane, or because we down in Florida, so I'm gonna bring up hurricanes, right? And you go and film that and put that out there, and you are an employee there, they're gonna say you're helping to facilitate them losing money. And if you want to lose your license or lose your job, facilitate your hospital system losing money. I don't care if it's a toxic place. I don't work in a toxic setting right now, but at the end of the day, the ultimate rule for a new or old nurse is, if it is going to potentially make them look bad, they are going to find they are going to defend themselves against you. No matter how loyal you are to them, they will cut you off, like cut your right hand off. They will cut you off quicker.
With a quickness, Do you feel that there's any social media filming at the workplace that you
at the workplace? No. Even this is, like I said, is why I have to put it where I'm saying anything that you hear me talk about is from a past job. Because it's still dangerous even to do this in my own house, talking about my experiences in the past.
Because again, all it takes is one nurse that is going to be like,
all it takes is one nurse manager to be like, that sounds familiar to me, and blah blah blah. And even
though
it's
not the point of what this discussion is about. It is supposed to be aiding in not only our venting and our like work-life balance, but it's also to help you guys, get you guys to get like, oh my god, I never really thought about it in that manner. And if you are like, oh, I film videos every single day, because I had a nurse that when she came to the hospital, she'd be doing selfies and videos and stuff like that, and I had to pull her aside, and I was like, you need to stop doing that, because we do work in a toxic, like at that time I was a toxic floor, and I was like,
but even in a non-toxic, they could be the best of healthcare systems. Just remember that hospital intends to be standing when you are in your grave, or when you're beyond this life.
They'll get rid of you.
So they will cut you off, no matter how nice they were on welcoming you, ushering you through the door. The second that their reputation is being questioned, they will usher you right back out the door quickly.
So the ick video, we kind of brushed through that. Those are the things that we have problems with, right? Because we all have different, icks, right? But when you do it in your scrubs with your badge on, walking around
at the
hospital you're currently working at, like you're at work,
and they didn't describe anybody by name, but there was just one or two silly patients that were like, you're describing my situation. Well, you're the one that just blew it up and told them that because I was just saying, oh, this patient did this in their room and this was crazy. If you want to be silly and identify yourself in the comment section, that is actually on you. I will say
that they didn't describe patients. They described things that actions that you're like, well, I was just there and I remember that nurse. Is that me? So it's not that you were like, that they described a diagnosis, right? Well, no, because they did. Because they did kind of go into particular, because it was like a L&D floor, a labor and delivery floor. So there were some kind of things that were a little kind of particular.
No, but there were things that people do more.
No, there was like, when the boyfriend is visiting 2 different rooms
But how many times do you think that has happened? You might be silly and realize that happened to you, but unfortunately that happens very often. Like just in nursing school, I had a patient
system,
who had,
they kind of had to address it because it was like, it was just, in my opinion, it was inappropriate.
But
I have no problem with you venting and telling your stories.
Just in nursing school.
Just be aware of your, like how you
your
do
surroundings,
it. Another situation that I will kind of bring up in social media is, and again, we're not bashing people if you want to express how you express it and your hospital system might be okay with it right now, but just be aware of protecting not only your license but protecting your patients, protecting all of that, right?
Yeah.
So another video that I'm kind of pulling from is this nurse lost a patient during the day and then she walks out and she's like crying about it, and it's like, you took the time to set up your phone.
That was the stupidest video.
And like
inspirational music comes on and she beats on the back of the wall. Like it's what is that movie? The dance one, the old one.
Oh, the one that like, and the waterfalls.
Yeah, like not Dirty Dance. I keep thinking of. What is that called?
Because I wanted to say Footloose and I'm like, that's not it.
But even that, even Footloose, that whole like inspirational moment, and it's, I'm unstoppable, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you know, people pointed out how silly that was.
But that's the thing. It's like, we understand the emotion of that, right? And I'm gonna, we'll talk about that too in another pod. But like the emotion of losing a patient and having to get right back into it. So I understand that. But the fact that we are aware that this is not like a soap opera, like this is like real life, and that is like
that's your Tuesday, and that is some family that's gonna see your face and be like, I remember that was my dad.
That was my dad you're talking about, that you were like crying over.
And you probably wasn't even talking about that. That might be months ago before you. But to them, that's the most important thing. And as soon as they identify you as that, that hospital system is not trying to go into the court beside you. So they're going to scramble to try to make sure that they are not involved and that they disassociate themselves in the fastest method. One of the other things I will point out while we're still on this topic, the other thing you have to be wary of in social media as a nurse, unfortunately, are other nurses that are online. The toxicity doesn't stop where you clock in. There are nurses that know what you're talking about.
Well, let me tell you something.
Know what you're talking about.
Let me tell you something though. I have been that nurse though that I've watched a video and I'm like, no, you're doing way too much, right? And I'm like, I know, and I've been like, nah, this nurse is crazy. And they put out too much details. Google their name, nurse license, look up.
Oh yeah.
Right, and you will see the because it lists when people complain. So you I don't know if I had that in me to complain like that. Something I see on social media, but somebody will, and it was something that happened. And when I looked it up, and that woman had a complaint. It was a woman. I remember this was a woman.
Listen.
So don't think that it's like only people that are on your floor, people in your hospital. There's somebody that's like, oh my God, I know that scrub, I know that symbol that's on your, because that's another thing. A lot of these hospitals have these lanyards with the logo on it, so they will be like, oh, connect 2 and 2. They'll call up there, which is something we love to say in nursing. Nursing is very small, so when you think you know somebody, they will call, oh, Mira, do you know this girl? Like, oh yeah, I remember her. Okay.
They'll get at you.
They will find you.
And then the thing is, why bring up the toxicity of other nurses? You have people that will go and watch your content and then go, oh, well, you didn't do this perfectly, this, that. And they do it in parenting. There's people out there that are saying, has this happened to you as a parent? Has this happened to you as a spouse? And there's people out there nurse shaming and acting like they're always on the ball. And if you're always on the ball 24 hours a day, for the 12 hours you clock in, any minute that you're not on break, you're always working and you're perfect. Your HCAP scores are perfect. Congratulations to you. The rest of the world is not that. But you got to be wary of that person that's willing to go and hyper scrutinize, and instead of trying to relate to you, right, they're too busy trying to suck up to some management that I don't know if they think when they go complain about you or point out in the video, nitpicking any little critique they can have about you, that they're gonna win some kind of brown nosing points. There are people who are in various stages of nurse burnout, and unfortunately,
what is nurse burnout? Because there's people that don't know.
We're gonna get into it. But unfortunately, while they're in this thing we're about to describe to you, they will turn, unfortunately, to their own as their target of how to express this burnout. Lashing out at someone else. They'll lash out to the closest thing in proximity, or the thing that looks the closest to them. Yeah. So watch out for those people. It's unhappy people that will bring you down, and if they have any inner knowledge of how to find out who you are, they will. So just remember, what you put on the internet is there forever.
And it stays for, oh my gosh, I wasn't sure that's what
no matter how much deleting you try to do.
Somebody just has to screenshot it. Somebody has to just
save
video
it real
record.
quick before you can get to delete it.
It never disappears.
Yeah.
It never does.
It's there forever.
It never does. No matter how you're like, oh, I'm going to get a lawyer, it never disappears.
So think of it like a tattoo. Is it that important as that comment? Is that video? Is whatever you're recording? Is it important enough to get a tattoo about it? And if it's not, if you think it's that important, then go ahead and hit record.
That's true.
But don't do it at your workplace.
But in that same respect, though, we are not saying that you cannot vent about this thing. Because this is something that, again, leading us to the next conversation, is nurse burnout is important to, in the management of it, is talking about it, right? And we don't do enough of that. Merging us into the next topic. You know what? Let's get into. I have another topic.
You will always be my inspiration.